Is the number one contender for the Universal Championship.
Got eliminate. But we saw that coming, right? So
Still doesn't mean I don't like it. Still doesn't mean I like it.
That's true.
I still can not like it, and I can still not watch Raw because I have no desire to, which is what happened this week.
Chandler, how about you? What is
Yeah, I'm upset by it. I don't like it as well. I did watch Raw this week, but unfortunately, it was something that we saw coming a mile away, and it still happened. The most upsetting thing to me about it was just how it happened, with Strowman pretty much dominating the entire match, and then finally getting eliminated by Roman Reigns with the spear. And after the first two eliminations, I watched
You called it, man. You called it.
I watched the event with Andre and Andre's cousin, our good friend and show contributor Mike Onsrud. We all watched it together, and after the first two eliminations, I saw the writing on the wall, and then it ended up happening. So wasn't really too pleased about it, but I still watch Raw this week, and I'm still looking forward to the build up to the road to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I feel like they're really, really squandering a beautiful thing that they have going with Braun Strowman. He, in my opinion, he should have beaten Roman Reigns earlier this year. I think it was at the Rumble. No, not the Rumble. That was a triple threat match. Even before that, when he had the one-on-one match, he should have won that. He should be Universal Champion right now. If not, he should be going to WrestleMania to face Brock Lesnar for the title. I understand Roman Reigns has been the guy in Vince's eyes for years now, and he's been attempting to push him, and he's still trying to get him. He's still trying to get him to be the man, to be the new John Cena, Hulk Hogan. He's going as far as to faking, in my opinion, issues with Brock Lesnar and his contract and whether or not he's going to wrestle, or having him advertise for Raw and then not show up. I totally see through that. That's all a scheme to get us to cheer for Roman Reigns. And I don't know. Braun, I don't hate Roman Reigns. He's an incredible in-ring performer, and he's growing and he's getting better every single week. But at the same time, it's like I'm over it now. I need him to step to the background. And I know he hasn't had a title in a while, a world title at least, or Universal, whatever. But he's still main evented WrestleMania the past however many years, and I don't know.
He could actually set a record this year for how many WrestleManias he has main eventing, and of course we're going with the last match. We'll get into that as we go on. We're going to recap Elimination Chamber. We're going to talk about a few articles from the week, the future also of WWE's television contracts. But first we want to bring in Zach Wagner to the show. Zach, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, no problem. How you guys doing?
Doing great. So we had Elimination Chamber match. We started off with the first ever women's chamber match. Zach, we got to be running out of firsts for the women's division, right?
Yeah, they're pushing it pretty hard. I get the idea of wanting to make history because we're on just such a precedent of really empowering the women's division. But at some point, if you keep pushing all these historic firsts and that's all you're banking on instead of building secondary or tertiary storylines, I don't know what the driving motivation is going to be when you've got a bunch of pretty static characters and no gimmicks to push on them. That being said, I thought the match went much better than I expected, considering I'm not a fan of the men's Elimination Chamber matches often either because they're very gimmicky.
Yeah, Elimination Chamber kind of started when I was sort of on my way out of taking a break, I guess, from being a wrestling fan, or at least being an every week watcher for sure. So I've never got really big into the Elimination Chamber, but this pay-per-view and the two matches they had, I thought were pretty well done. I will say, with the 15 minutes of intros to start the pay-per-view, sometimes it's like, oh man, could we have done some of this on the pre-show? So I was like, geez, let's get this going a little bit. Do you guys think there's a way to improve that, Chandler? Like, maybe do, especially for the first match, if you have so many people in it, maybe do some of the intros for the girls who are going to go in the tubes.
They're pods.
The pods, sorry, thank you, yes. Tide Pod. So do you think they could do some of that beforehand when it comes to a match that has so much intros? They did extend the pay-per-view longer than their standard 3 hours, so that was nice. I think it was 3 hours, 22 minutes, but I think there's a way to remedy this. I think maybe putting some of them on the pre-show would be a way to do that.
Yeah, yes and no. I could definitely see them doing that for the first match. Maybe the first while as the panel of hosts is having their closing remarks, have one or two people make their way to the ring and kind of cut between them doing their entrance and the commentators of the pre-show panel having their, like I said, their closing remarks. But I understand why you would want it on the show, because you're trying to give the competitors as much face time on screen as possible. But like you said, with as many competitors in a match like an Elimination Chamber, I don't think that, and especially because whoever you have come out first wouldn't even necessarily be starting the match, I think that wouldn't be a problem.
I don't think they should be on the pre-show. I think every competitor in the match should get their intro before the match, not on the pre-show. Having said that, a way that they can make it seem less is, I don't know if they did it. I don't think they did, but I think a good idea would be to have them as, let's say they're introducing Alexa Bliss. As she's walking down to her entrance music, put in the bottom right, left corner, or whatever corner they decide, put in her pre-match promo. Instead of showing that before the match or showing that on the pre-show, or even if you show it on the pre-show, but show a promo or show something, show her talking about the match, discussing it. You don't have to do this with every single entrant, but for the big ones, the ones that you're trying to push certain storylines and certain angles, I think it's good to I think that would be a good idea, as opposed to putting it on the pre-show.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Actually, was they're not opposed to doing the picture-in-picture thing when they're doing replays or anything like that. Like, why not take the time to recap some of that storyline? You still get the face time, but I think a lot of the entrance really pays off bigger for the in-person crowd. We know what we know their theme song at home. We get the face time, but especially in a chamber match where they're going to be cycling through each pod, showing each person like waiting for their turn, you get plenty of face time. So I think it'd be the perfect opportunity to recap kind of the major points leading up to that match without making us just watch someone walk down the ramp over and over again, taking up 15 minutes of time.
That's what I think, that there is a way to make it a little bit more sense, but I do, and including some of the storyline, I'm all about that, especially picture-in-picture, the way they do when they cut to commercial on SmackDown, or even showing Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens while there's a match going on relating to AJ Styles and John Cena, like they did on Tuesday night. Things like that, I think they could do it a little bit quicker. I'm glad they extended the pay-per-view, though, but same thing with the men's match. I think it took over an hour, but was the match itself, bell to bell, was 40 minutes long, so it was like there was an over 20 minutes of intros again, and I guess there was one extra superstar in the men's compared to the women's, but still a lot of time given up to intros. I know it's wrestling and that's part of it, but I think they could do something to remedy that a little bit. I was expecting a really sloppy match for it being the first women's Elimination Chamber. Not that I wasn't trying to give them credit. I'm just saying for the first time that it went a lot better than I really thought it was going to.
It went great, and I expected it to go great, because every first that they've done so far, I can't think of one first.
Money in the Bank?
That wasn't them doing a poor job, though. That was just one decision at the end.
I think it was a combo. I think it was
flawed
both
decision, but I think the match itself was good. And I think if what's his name, the intergender champion, current
James Ellsworth,
champion James
Big
Ellsworth,
hog.
didn't pull down the briefcase, I don't think it would have been as controversial.
I think that the match was not good at Money in the Bank, and I also think the rematch when Carmella won was also not good. But
really?
I give the women a lot of credit that this was a lot better than I thought it would go. And Chandler, are you on board? I mean, the match went well. I think all four of us are in agreement that it went a lot better, at least than I thought it would. But you guys had pretty high expectations.
Oh, absolutely. Well, actually, I didn't know what to expect. I kind of expected it to be sloppier than it was, just because, like you said, it's the first one. It's not because I didn't have faith in any of the competitors in the match, their ability, but it's just because of the fact that it's the first one that's ever been done at a pay-per-view for the women. But yes, I was blown away by the match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The moment with the Lion King moment with Sasha Banks and Bayley on the top of the pod was amazing. Some of the stuff that Alexa was doing, trying to escape from both Sasha and Bayley, when it was down to just the three of them towards the end of the match, I really enjoyed. I thought they used the chamber itself very well. Mickie James had a few more. I mean, everyone shined in the match, including the two that I didn't really expect much out of it in that match, which was Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. I was really impressed by their performances in the match as well.
I am all in on Mandy Rose in more than one way. Oh my goodness. Zach, you thought this match went pretty well for the most part. Were you okay with Absolution being eliminated first? Does that seem a little bit weird, seeing as they started with a 2-on-1 advantage? Once I believe Rose came out of the pod to help out Deville against Bayley. Was the other starter, I believe?
I don't know. I think it makes a certain amount of sense. They're definitely the least established competitors in the match. They had a decent showing, and I don't think anyone was expecting them to win. So I don't think we really lose anything by them going out first. They didn't. I don't think it hurt them in any way going out first after having a pretty decent showing, especially for Mandy Rose coming to the main roster with very little, if any, on-screen time. I think she's done great, really adjusting and proving that she belongs there. I think it was a totally reasonable decision and a totally fine outcome for them.
Let me ask you this then, Zach. Do you think that Paige's new tattoos had anything to do with Absolution being eliminated first?
I hope not. I mean,
would you put it past Vince McMahon?
Not even a little bit. I don't think anyone would be shocked at him doing something ridiculous and petty like that. But on the flip side, if you're under contract with a major entertainment company and you're on TV, national TV on a regular basis, maybe getting swear words tattooed on the side of your hands, not the best idea as a professional. So, I think I think it was not the best decision on Paige's part. Maybe at this point in her career, you can do whatever you want, but but I don't think it was a move. I think it makes sense that they get eliminated first without Paige's questionable decision making.
I don't know if you guys are you guys familiar with Paige's new tattoos? The
Yes.
talk-ish, get bit, if I'm going to put that in Usos terms. So, and we saw her, she only went up to the ramp, and I mean, it's not like she was going to get in the chamber anyway, or I know she can't perform anyway, but I guess, to me, maybe she could have been around the chamber as opposed to just going out real quick, or going out to the
They never
to
have
the stage.
that, though. When Flair, the very first chamber, when Flair was with Triple H, he went to the back, so I don't think the tattoo has any bearing on anything. She covers it when she's on TV. So, I mean, no, you can't put it past Vince, but I don't see it hurting Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much in the same boat there.
One other thing that we saw was kind of continuation of the Sasha Banks heel turn / feud with Bayley. And I think this is going to be great. Sasha Banks is such a natural heel. She's so much better as a heel. I think that's they've kind of dropped the ball, leaving her as a face for almost 2+ years now. I think Sasha Banks is so much better in that bad girl role, and we keep teasing it a little bit more and more, and it seems like we're really on the cusp of it. And I think that might be one of the girls' Mania matches will be Bayley and Sasha Banks. At least I certainly hope so, and I hope Sasha is full heel by that time. I think it'll help Bayley, hopefully. Also, she's never really over with the crowd in any way. Even, maybe only just once at home, but the other time I think she got booed in San Jose, where she's from. This most recent time she did a lot better in terms of crowd response in San Jose, but not Bayley has not gotten over with the and this was one of the big worries about bringing her up in NXT, was that she's not going to be over the way she was in NXT. But maybe with the Sasha Banks heel, as the way she can play it, maybe that helps her out the most.
I think it would absolutely help her out, Sasha Banks being the heel in this situation. And them two having a match at WrestleMania would be fantastic, especially if it were just a one-on-one match. Unfortunately, I still see all the women getting lumped together in one match, the lower card, and then the two title matches, because that's kind of just historically what they do at WrestleMania. But going back to Bayley and kind of her situation, I feel like the reason that she's not gotten over on the main roster is because what worked in NXT was, yes, she started off as the lovable, huggable, high-fiving fangirl that was just happy to be there. But once she got into the rivalry with Sasha Banks and the NXT Women's title was a part of that picture, you got to see a more serious competitor side of her. And even though she has been the Raw Women's Champion, I feel like you haven't gotten that from her yet on the main roster, even with her one Raw Women's title run. And I feel like that's the biggest thing that she's been lacking on the main roster, is a more serious more real competitor's edge, and I feel like if you add that to her character, maybe people will be more excited about her matches and be able to get behind her, and maybe she can get a little bit more over with the crowd. And Sasha absolutely would be the best person right now for both of them being on the same show. She would be the best person to try to get that out of her.
Zach, do you think that Sasha Banks is exactly what Bayley needs to bring her out of it? And what is it about Bayley's character that worked so well in NXT but doesn't quite get over maybe in the mainstream wrestling audience?
I think not only does Sasha help Bayley, but I think Bayley helps Sasha too, because as a babyface, Sasha just hasn't really clicked like she did as that heel in NXT. And you listen to her talk about it, and she didn't really feel like she had a character until she brought out that boss persona. And if you look at the way characters are built in NXT, because it's a developmental thing and because characters are slowly introduced to you over time, we watched Bayley grow from that like really like almost irritating fangirl, like not even as like a character, but like this seems like a waste of talent, to like a more serious competitor. And the person that brought it out of her was Sasha. When they had that run culminating in the Iron Man match and the match at Brooklyn and all that stuff, it was not just the highlight of Bayley's career, but Sasha's too. Like I don't think Sasha would have got pulled up as quick as she did without those matches really like showcasing what she had built herself into. And I think Bayley needed a little more time down in NXT just to solidify her character, because we've seen it time and time again that NXT talent, when they're brought up, don't necessarily get the same time and attention and care as they did in NXT on the main roster. So with a kind of tricky character as Bayley is, because she is cute, she is lovable, she's, you know, the hugger and everything, it's hard to keep that persona while also making her a credible in-ring talent. But if you have a heel that's going to do those really dastardly, devious, like personal things like the legit boss Sasha Banks is willing to do, you can really push that fired up underdog thing that really, I think, made Bayley excel. Because if you look, you know, Bayley spun off into rivalries with Nia Jax and Asuka, who are arguably two of the, you know, biggest threats in the Raw Women's division right now, and she looked credible against both of them. Maybe didn't have the best, you know, win-loss record against them, but she was a reasonable, you know, opponent for both of them and really held down the women's division at NXT once the other three horsewomen got called up to the main roster. So I think we could use this as a definite turning point for both Sasha Banks and Bayley and really rejuvenate their careers on the main roster. I think the full heel turn comes at Mania. I think we tease it really hard up until that point, and then they get their one-on-one match, and that's where Sasha just like lets it all out and like just maybe devastates Bayley and leaves her broken in the ring, like, you know, building to a really nice return match. So I think it could be really great for both of them, and if it's booked right and if it's given the time that it deserves, I think it could really help both of them moving forward.
Well, there are whispers, and I'm not talking about Rebecca Hickenbottom, the Nitro Girl, but there are whispers of a battle royal for the women at WrestleMania. If that's the case, I really hope that Sasha and Bayley are not a part of that they get their own separate match, because, as you both have pointed out, that feud between Sasha and Bayley was one of the best feuds in WWE in the modern era. Their handful of matches, they had 2 Match of the Year caliber matches in those matches, and we talked about how great Bayley was as a babyface in that feud and how great Sasha was as a heel in that feud. I just remember her making Izzy cry, legit cry on what was it, was that the Iron Man match? Yeah, where she made her cry at the Iron Man match. And I'm looking forward to not necessarily her making kids cry, but
I am.
the dastardly heel, the legit boss that we all know that Sasha is and how great she is, and it will, as Zach said, bring out the best in both Bayley and Sasha, and hopefully if Sasha does turn heel, that we see the end of the horrible it's boss time
What?
catchphrase that Michael Cole likes to say every single time that Sasha comes out, that I never noticed until Chandler pointed out to me, and now I can't unhear it, and it irks me to no end every single time. So everyone else has to hear the pet peeve of mine that I learned from my good friend Chandler here.
Glad I could help.
Gosh, I've been so annoyed with Michael Cole for so long, and he's helping out most of the other commentators. I just hope that he's not poisoning the well of people that I did enjoy. And it took me a while to get to turn on Tom Phillips, and then I liked him for a while, and now I'm sort of slipping away from him again.
To be fair to Cole, I guarantee you most of that nonsense is Vince McMahon in his ear saying, you have to say every single time, you have to say it, because Vince loves that stuff.
I know. Late 90s, early 2000s Cole, I really loved when he would take over a pay-per-view, or when JR or somebody
UK
was out for a
Cole.
while. UK Tournament Cole, there you go. Yeah, that was some of his best work ever, I thought.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and one of my favorite moments also from the Elimination Chamber would be Alexa Bliss winning, but the tease of the face turn afterwards, the tears, and any girl can accomplish their dreams, and look what I've done, and then turning it back around. It almost looked like it was going to be a double turn for a second, Zach, and ultimately Alexa Bliss puts it right back where we wanted it.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic. I think given the talent that's really risen to the occasion over the last year or so, I don't think we've seen the development of a better all-around talent than Alexa Bliss. I don't think there's too many better promos, like, full stop, in the WWE right now, and I don't think there's a better heel character in the WWE at all right now. Like, as a pure, like, heel character, she somehow managed to just keep that heat, and she's just fantastic. I think she's MVP for the last 2 years running, probably. She's just unbelievable.
Yeah, we used to often say that since the brand split, it's Braun Strowman for the guys and Alexa Bliss, and maybe even Alexa Bliss ahead of Braun, as you said, that she has just been full on heel. Chandler, you're all in on Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, and how awesome is it that she's been able to stay on top and stay a relevant, good, strong, solid heel since the brand split. Initially we mentioned that she was definitely one of the standouts and and possibly the MVP of the brand split, but it's great to see that she has been able to keep things going for herself as long as she has, and that promo after the match was some of her best work, if not her best work. And I mentioned while we were watching the pay-per-view together, I mentioned that she's hands down the best female on the microphone in the company, and as Zach said, she could arguably be the best. You could put her in that conversation, but absolutely 100% in my eyes, the best female promo in the WWE today.
Agreed, 100%. She's I almost used that phenomenal word that I can't use with anyone but AJ, but she's great. She's wonderful. I loved that promo. That promo was one of my favorite promos of the night, because for a split second there, I bought into, man, is she really turning here? Is this really? And why would they do it? And then when she turned it around, I loved it. I popped for it. She's great. I'd say that she's, you said Braun and her. I'd put her ahead of Braun simply for the fact that she's actually been given a title, whereas Braun has been multiple times screwed out of the title.
Yeah, and she was the first to get a title on both Raw and SmackDown since the brand split, which is pretty neat stuff. Zach, you talked about, when we were bringing up Bayley and Sasha Banks, about how when people get brought up from NXT, they don't quite get that time on, to develop and the proper, I guess, treatment to bring their superstar status to the level that it ought to be. Well, we're moving on to the Tag Team Championship match, and Apollo Crews, or Apollo as he's now known, is really maybe the poster child for that. I think they jumped the gun on bringing him up to the main roster. I don't want to spend too much time on this Tag Team Championship match, but Apollo's he's somebody who could have used some more time and maybe even an NXT Championship before they brought him up to the main roster to flounder the way he has.
Yeah, when they brought him into NXT, I think most of us thought that he was in line for an NXT Championship run, like, very early on. And I don't know if it was like if he came in right before they brought in another big wave of indie guys and he just kind of got lost in the shuffle. But I remember thinking, like, there's no way. Like, I assumed he'd get brought up to the main roster quickly, but I was sure they would give him that little extra rub by letting him be NXT champ first. And then, I mean, within 2 or 3 weeks of main roster debut, I think everyone knew he was dead in the water. And you look at what he's capable of, even in this match, a standing shooting star press and all those things, like, that's nothing to scoff at. He's an unbelievable talent. but I don't think he's been up till this point. He's really been utilized the way he could be. I don't think he's doomed because he's just that good. But I think for now it's gonna be interesting to see if he can recover from being put this far behind the eight ball, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to see. I always thought that WWE doesn't use the mouthpieces enough, and I thought that giving him one would be the way to go. I don't think Titus is necessarily the guy for that. I'd like to see him with somebody else. I'm not sure who, but Apollo, not great on the mic, but everything else is the epitome of what you think that they would want out of a superstar, with the look, the athleticism, the strength. He has it all, minus the mic skills, but that's something you can look past, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shockingly disagree with you. I think Titus is a great fit for him because I think Titus is what has helped bring him out of obscurity. Before he was teamed with Titus, he was floundering, and now they didn't win, but he's actually getting championship matches. They may be tag team championship matches, but he got a tag team championship match. He's gotten singles victories over members of the bar. You talked about them not using mouthpieces very well. I think Cesaro uses a mouthpiece very well.
Best in the business.
Absolutely. But I do agree with you that he does need a mouthpiece. I think Titus is fine. I would like to see, we'll probably talk about this when we talk about one of the articles, but because I believe it was brought up, but I'd like to see more people added to Titus worldwide.
Going back to what you were saying, Frony, about how Apollo virtually has everything but the mic skills. That's something that he would have been able to benefit from had he stayed down in NXT longer. And I was shocked when he got called up as soon as he did. I watched his entire run in NXT, and I saw a little bit of stuff of his career when he was UA Nation on the indie scene, and I thought that just from a talent standpoint he would be fine, but as you said too, within a couple weeks, you could see that there wasn't going to be much happening. So that was really disappointing to me. But I really am I really do strongly believe that he would have benefited. And as you said, he's like the poster child of what calling someone up from NXT too fast can happen. And it kind of sucks. It was really awesome to see him have a pay-per-view match for the tag titles. The match was what it was. It wasn't terrible, but you know, I've always wanted more for Apollo, and hopefully now that it seems like this rivalry might be over, the bar's probably going to move on to whoever their WrestleMania opponents are going to be, but hopefully he doesn't again get lost in the shuffle and just thrown to undercard status.
They brought him up too early, and they brought him up without any kind of plan, and that was just a huge mistake.
I will say, Andre, to your point that yes, so I'm still not the big Titus fan anymore, but this did get him a match on a pay-per-view and for a title, so that is a big deal. I still think that his future hopefully I still think it's above where he's at now, but himself improving his mic skills is the best way to get him kind of shot up the card a little bit, but we'll have to see. I think we all know what an amazing talent he is, and I think they just have to utilize him a little bit better. The last month or so, or a couple months, they have done a better job. He's moving in the right direction. Only hope that he continues to do so. The next match of the night was Asuka and Nia Jax. This was kind of a dangerous situation, Zach, to put. I thought it was almost a no-win situation for either of these two. You don't want to see Asuka lose the streak, certainly not this early, maybe not even at Mania, maybe down the road, next year's Mania or SummerSlam or something like that. And then the way they build Nia Jax, you also don't want to see her have necessarily a super clean loss. I thought they did a good job, but it was a well-timed ending where Nia Jax kicked out right after the 3 count was made, and neither superstar really looked bad here.
Yeah, I agree. And it was an interesting situation. They're playing kind of fast and loose with the Asuka streak right now, considering how big of a streak it is and how hard they push it. Because apparently they're also bringing it up in the mixed match challenge that her streak is technically on the line there too, which seems really silly to me. But I think as much as this was a risk for Asuka, I'm really not sure what they're doing with Nia Jax, because she's just got that powerhouse feel, and I think they keep pushing her closer and closer to that main event and then just backing off for whatever reason. And I don't know. I mean, I think Asuka is the best way to establish Nia Jax as that legit powerhouse, but I don't think sacrificing Asuka's streak is the way to do it. So I'm not quite sure what they were hoping to gain out of this. And then the stipulation of Nia Jax potentially being added to whatever title match. It seemed kind of rushed and very weird to me. I'm not quite sure what the intended outcome was of that for either character going forward.
I kind of felt like after the match, I thought they both came out looking good. I thought that Nia Jax, it took, like, as you said, she kicked out right as the 3 count happened, and it was a quick roll up. That was the only way that Asuka was going to be able to beat her. She wasn't going to make her tap. She wasn't going to knock her out with one of her kicks. And then after the match itself, you have so I think that the streak stayed intact, and it didn't make Nia look weak taking the loss the way that she did. But then also after the match, where she attacks Asuka from behind and then just drills her through the barricade, that was fantastic. I thought that then reestablished Nia as, like, oh yeah, don't forget, she might have lost the match, but she is definitely the powerhouse of the division. And it was also at the same time the most vulnerable Asuka's looked in her entire time in the WWE, with this entire streak going, including NXT. So I thought that this match did a lot for both of them. And going forward, they finally did announce that it is going to be Asuka challenging for the Raw Women's Championship on Monday Night Raw, and they kind of just did it, they just said it. But I think that it's going to end up being a triple threat match with Nia and Asuka still, even though she lost the match to be added to the match. She lost the match at Elimination Chamber to be added to the Mania match. I think that still somehow she's going to find a way to get into that title match.
And Andre, this is really the first time we've seen Asuka sell as much as she did. I don't know if we've really seen that so far, even in NXT.
Yeah, I liked it. I think Chandler hit the nail on the head, or in our case, should I say, Chandler hit the super kick on the chin when he discussed the match, because it did both of them. I'm saying this assuming, and I could be wrong, but the writing's on the wall, it looks like, and I hope I'm not wrong, but assuming Asuka challenges Charlotte, it opens the door for Nia Jax to challenge her real life and storyline best friend Alexa Bliss, and have those 2 championship matches at WrestleMania. I think that would be the way to go. And I think I like seeing the vulnerability of Asuka and her keeping her streak intact at the same time. I didn't know that her mixed match challenge matches count. All that does to me is tell me I know who's winning that tournament now.
Yes, exactly.
And,
yeah, good point.
And her streak's still intact. I think if she loses it, it'll be at Mania, or at Mania even next year. I could see them pushing this out a year.
So I think you're right. I think Asuka maybe eventually goes against Charlotte at Mania. They still have not confirmed anything like that, but the Nia and Alexa Bliss thing seems to be the build for the last few months, and that is likely the way that they're going to go, Chandler.
But a thought that just popped in my head, a complete afterthought that I'm just now realizing. We do have Miss Money in the Bank still holding her briefcase. So,
oh my word.
Fastlane's coming up. It's a SmackDown pay-per-view. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a tease, or even if she tries to pull a Seth Rollins and interject herself into the ongoing SmackDown Women's Championship match at Mania. So who's to say? She has. When's the last time you guys remember seeing Carmella on TV having a match or anything?
She was in a very minor segment. Actually, I don't even know. Maybe it was on Tuesday. I know I saw her somewhere. I thought that it was like a backstage. Maybe she was doing her nails or something like that. Yeah, she was
like polishing the briefcase or something and that was it.
Yeah.
But I feel like they've done that on purpose so that we can forget about, she does have the contract, so that there's going to be a run-in. And I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
I hope it's not at Mania.
Go ahead, Zach.
They're just kind of hiding it in plain sight. So, it's there, but you just don't think about it. And it is, like you said, I had completely forgotten about it too. And they seem to have a lot of balls in the air right now for the women's division on both sides, with Ronda Rousey with the Royal Rumble win, which traditionally is a one-on-one championship match at Mania. If it does get turned into a triple threat, do people have issues with that? There's a lot that they have to settle out in the next 5 or 6 weeks. It'll be really interesting to see what shakes out and what kind of matches we see for the women on both sides at Mania.
Yeah, things haven't been perfect with the Women's Revolution, but if you are a women's wrestling fan now, in terms of WWE, this really is the the best it's ever been, most I would say, in terms of depth and the differences in the type of wrestlers you have on the roster and just giving the girls a shot. So I do give them some credit for that. I know it hasn't been perfect, but it is maybe the golden era of women's wrestling right now. You're listening to 103.5 The Sun, WLSP LP, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. We are jacked up on coffee and in the studio here at the Sun Prairie Media Center. Next match we had was Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. So, Andre, I know we'll work our way from Andre to Chandler and then back to Zach on this one. I didn't think this was a good match, but
you obsolete mule.
But I blame the crowd more than I blame the wrestlers. I think that even watching on TV, it was hard to not focus on how the crowd was so disinterested in what was going on, which I think is super disrespectful. And I also think that there should be less of a gripe, especially from live fans and other fans watching on TV, which I actually think it will be more beneficial if you're watching at home to get one of these compound type matches. I think that this really sealed the deal that is what we're going to get most likely at WrestleMania. So in that regard, maybe this was a good thing, but Andre, you don't think this was a bad match. You think that really just the crowd was missing a great one.
The crowd really bothered me because for months and months and months, or almost a year, they clamored, we want to see Broken Hardy in WWE. And I was here, and they act like they don't care. And I understand that they want everything. They want all the bells and whistles. They want the Senior Benjamin, the Queen Rebecca, the King Maxwell, the Vanguard one. They want the compound. They want all that. But it's coming. If you've listened to his interviews, that match was that match and his tweets afterwards about the battle will continue, but it'll be with my rules and my battleground. It's obvious. And no, we're not going to get that at an Elimination Chamber. That's going to happen at a WrestleMania, as it should. And the start of the match was incredible. The start where Bray Wyatt was coming down and then he appeared in the ring, but Matt Hardy was gone and just his robe was there. And then he was talking on the mic. That's awesome. That to me was enough for me to know, okay, we're for sure getting everything. We're going to get everything that we want. And Matt has been saying it. So for them to bring out the beach ball and to chant the Rusev Day, as much as I love Rusev and as much as I love Rusev Day, I think it was disrespectful. And it was kind of shocking to me because the fans have been clamoring for this version of Matt Hardy for a long time. And he's still over, but for them to, I don't know, that bothered me. But I thought the match itself was good. The story that that was told, and if you've listened to the show long enough, you know that the wrestling is important. All that stuff's important, but I love a great story. And when it's done right, I think my only gripe was the crowd. I really do. They bothered me with the beach ball. And I'm glad to see that beach balls have been banned, even though they're still going to be snuck in. But this isn't the first time. When the beach ball was out during that tag match when Cesaro ran up and grabbed the beach ball and shredded it, that was a great match too that they were disrespecting. And I understand fans pay their money and they should do what they want to do, but there comes a point when you're disrespecting the people that are performing for you.
Chandler, did the crowd have too many snake bites and Vegas bombs before this match?
Oh yeah, they did too many of those things. But no, seriously though, I absolutely agree with what you guys are saying. As far as the match goes itself, I thought it was a good enough match. Not the best match, not a bad match. It definitely furthered the storyline between these two, which was pretty much that was the most important thing. As Andre said, after the match stuff that Matt Hardy was tweeting out and whatnot lets you know that the compound match is coming and this rivalry isn't over yet, so just stick around for the ride. But going to the whole Beach Ball Mania and they were doing the wave, chanting Rusev Day, all that stuff during this match, which was a solid match in my eyes. I wasn't very happy with that. I definitely think that these two competitors deserve more attention and respect than that. Then again, it is. I mean, I don't know. Being there live for that long of a show with the two chamber matches, I'm not defending or sticking up for the fans, but that's probably from their standpoint, that's probably why they did what they did. But at the same time, like I said, I'm not a fan of what happened during that match, and I was pretty upset by it.
Those fans are obsolete mules.
Zach, the crowd has so much to do when it comes to a great match. I think that they can help really enhance a match, especially watching at home. You get so much more into it when you hear the crowd pop at certain times. I know that this was not the blow-off. This was a stepping stone to WrestleMania, to a possible compound match, but I think that this one was hurt by the audience lack of participation.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's been a problem that's just been getting worse. And you know, I don't play the whole argument that you pay your ticket, you get to do whatever you want, because the guy sitting next to you also paid for his ticket, and if he wants to watch the show without being completely distracted by some jerk yelling something completely unrelated and intentionally distracting, you know, where does his money go? Like, what does his money buy him? I get that they want to be part of the show, and I think it's necessary to be part of the show, but if it's not in a constructive way, either booing someone they don't like or cheering someone they do like or reacting to what's actually happening in the ring, it ruins the product for everyone. And if they're doing that, they're clearly not interested in the product in the ring, whether it's due to poor storyline or just because they want to be getting attention in front of other people. And I think it's a problem that came in from the indies and really incubated in NXT. And like when, you know, at first it was like the NXT crowd was so engaged and so great, and really, I think a big part of what brought NXT to the place it is now. I think it's gone to the point where the NXT crowd, they just want to get on hard camera, they want to have their chants, they want to do whatever, and they've gotten a little bit better lately. But for a while there, I was clamoring for NXT to be anywhere but Full Sail. And when you see it start coming up to the main roster, when you've got the big arena crowds of 8 to 10 to 20,000 people, it becomes so much more distracting. And the fact that I feel like in the last couple of weeks I heard a CM Punk chant like 4 years later, like, what are we doing? Like, if you're not there to watch the show, why are you spending this kind of money? Why are you ruining for the people around you? I think it can be really distracting and really damaging to the product as a whole. You know, especially for outsiders, if they come in and they see that kind of behavior and they see, like, if these are your fans who are paying money to see the show and they don't care, why should I, as a newcomer, invest any time? I think it's a really interesting and really difficult issue to address, because you don't want to turn away those fans who are willing to pay their money, but also think they should be able to run the show too. So that's kind of tricky. I do think it was an okay match. I will admit that I am less than not invested at all in this feud. I loved Bray Wyatt. I was so invested in for so long, and man, that WrestleMania match last year took literally every bit of wind out of his sails for me. Like, I don't hate the guy, but I'm just like, it's going to take a lot for me to really get invested again. And then the compound match idea is great, but if you're going to WrestleMania and sitting through a 5-hour show, are you going to want to spend 20 minutes watching something on a screen when you could have live action in the ring? I think that's an interesting thing, because I do agree that it needs to be on a big stage to really sell it, but I don't know if that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have enough live action at WrestleMania this year. But
no, that's not the. That's
no,
not
I know.
the
I'm just.
You know, like, just the fact that you're going to have 20 minutes where you're going to have however many thousands of people sitting in an arena looking at screens instead of looking at something happening in the ring. That's, you know, I think maybe a 3 or 4 hour pay-per-view, like a Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble, is the place to do it rather than WrestleMania.
I have a couple questions. One for just Zach and one for everybody, the one for just Zach. You said you're done with Bray. I hope. What is your opinion on the current Woken Matt Hardy gimmick?
So I'm done with Bray in as much as they got to win me back with him. I think he can be a great performer, and I think he has potential to be a great character. The Matt Hardy thing, everyone was clamoring for it. They brought him on before the legal issues were settled with Impact and everything like that. They kept teasing the broken thing. And then for a while, they just it went really dormant. Like when the legal battle was heating up, which is understandable, you got to pull it off. The fact that Hardy's been out, so you lose the Brother Nero thing for a while. My concern is at this point, for most of the people, is the broken thing much beyond the delete chant? Like, is the wider audience still invested enough to really get behind the compound match, the whole, you know, off-site film thing, which I think is great. I think it'd be really entertaining. But the problem is, while they were killing it in Impact and doing the broken Matt Hardy thing, we were getting the watered-down version in WWE with the House of Horrors match and everything like that. And I wonder if that's going to scare fans away from really investing like they could otherwise.
I think that's a fair thing to say, because WWE's track record isn't the best. I'm still holding out hope. I'm holding out hope that he gets to use enough creative freedom for it to be good. But then my second question goes, what was I saying? Going back to the beach ball stuff. Do you guys think any of the blame goes to John Cena for standing up for it and posting pictures of beach balls on Instagram and Twitter and saying stuff like the fans paid their money, they should be able to do it?
Part of me wonders if Cena is a little bit scorned by how a lot of wrestling fans have turned on him and have been against him for so long that I don't know if he's necessarily trying to win them back by doing that, but part of me thinks that he is, and that he wants to be the fan favorite again the way he was at one point. He's won me back over for sure. These last 4 years, I think he's been awesome. I think this has been the best set of his career. But I think there is a large group of male independent wrestling fans that will never be John Cena fans. That he represents all that is bad in WWE and in professional wrestling as a whole, in total. And I think, I mean, we're humans. Sometimes things like that bother us. You know, like. So to me, it was a little bit of him trying to get that back, but also he plays to the crowd quite often, and you could see it even on Tuesday night the way he was almost playing the heel a little bit in his match against AJ Styles on SmackDown.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that it does that didn't help the whole Beach Ball Mania case, having someone in the position like John Cena, in the position that he's in, kind of advocating for it. That doesn't help things. It's not going to make fans not do it anymore. It's definitely going to encourage them. I don't think that was necessarily what he was going for, but it's definitely something that could, some sort of a residual effect is like, oh, well, if John Cena says it's okay, then I'm just going to do it because he's their top guy. He's been their top guy, and he's encouraging me to have fun how I feel like having fun since I paid for my ticket. But having fun in that way, it doesn't help anything or anyone, or it doesn't help. People look at wrestling fans as it's bad enough as it is. That doesn't help how people view us in society, and it doesn't help the competitors that are in the ring. So I just don't see why in my eyes it doesn't have a place in being a part of the show.
And I think it hurt maybe that Cena almost stopped the match whenever, I don't know if it was back at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
he basically stopped the match to
acknowledge it.
Fully
acknowledge it in the middle of the match.
And I think that hyped it up a little bit, and that was also detrimental somewhat, not to his match, but also the continuation. And it's become a thing now, which sucks.
And I mean, definitely with the situation with Cesaro too, that definitely brought attention to it as well. But it was kind of the opposite. Like, yes, it brought more eyes to the fact that that's a thing that happens, but that's very clearly a competitor in the ring having a match and going out, tearing the ball in half and saying, pay attention to what's going on. So I definitely support what Cesaro did, and I'm not necessarily a fan of what John Cena did in this situation.
Yeah, I totally understand Cesaro's frustration, especially you're out there busting your butt. And I don't remember when this happened. I don't remember if it was before or after the teeth incident, but
pretty sure it was
he's
before.
Either way, he's still putting his body on the line, and it's like, come on, man. I totally understand why he did that.
Okay, so I'm a baseball fan. This is something that quite often happens a lot at baseball games, especially opening day, and it's more like celebrating a party, and baseball is much slower paced. So there, to me, it does kind of have its place, and that's something that you come to expect, and it can be a fun thing. But that's, when you're at a actual sporting event, you do see the wave and stuff like that, and it can, show that you're involved in a way. But I think in wrestling, it has the opposite effect. Because it is a show. You wouldn't have that in a Broadway play. And I know wrestling is different because of the fan interaction, and it is borderline sport and Broadway. But it's something that I'm not a huge fan of. The next thing we would see would be Ronda Rousey signing the contract. They're really sowing the seeds for the mixed gender match of most likely Angle and Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie. This was a fun little segment, and Ronda Rousey maybe got caught up a little bit in her promo and did a much better job on Monday Night on Raw, but you could tell she kind of got caught up a little bit. But as the scene or what the bit went on, she did a lot better job. Triple H, man, he's great. He just sells. He's great on the microphone. He's still he gets all aspects of it, and that's why he is. I know we have an issue with him being where he's at in some cases.
I don't have an issue with it.
But or some people say that he married his way in, whatever. I think he's done a great job, and I know that there still are. He has his detractors, but he's the man. He's the man, and I can't wait till it really becomes more and more his thing. But this was a really fun segment, and Angle, almost dropping the beat. This was like some Attitude Era stuff. So I thought that was kind of fun. I was surprised by this.
I honestly, going into this pay-per-view, just because I was really hyped up about both chamber matches, this was the least excited segment or moment of the night that I had going into it, but it turned out to be one of my favorite things of the whole show. It was awesome seeing Triple H take that bump through the table and then selling it afterwards. Stephanie hauling off in full blown. Stephanie gave her everything she had on that slap because it's Ronda Rousey, because she's a former UFC champion. She gave her everything she had on that slap. And as you said, the seeds being planted for the tag match at WrestleMania, they really did a good job with pushing this storyline forward and actually truly getting me interested in what's going to happen. Because I was excited about Ronda Rousey, and I was with all of the hype of her signing to WWE, but I wasn't really excited about her match or what the potential of her match could have been at WrestleMania. But after this segment, I am fully invested, and I want to see everything play out now.
I'm fully invested as well. I will say this with the asterisk of I still have to see her in the ring, but I'm really invested in Ronda Rousey now. I wasn't. After her intro, I was, I'm happy she's there. Her introduction, her debut wasn't the greatest, and after that I was kind of, but this segment, I'm all in, and I'm cheering for her. Well, I'm all in. I'm all in September as well. But I'm all in on the Ronda Rousey situation, and I'm cheering for her. I want her to knock it out of the park, and I want her to go on and become a huge star, because it'll be good for professional wrestling. It'll be good for WWE. And I was always a fan of Ronda in MMA too. She is a legit badass, and she's a perfect addition to the roster. Assuming she can go in the ring, knowing her and how hard she works, I would think that she's going to be just fine. We still have to wait and see, but that segment was great.
Zach, the fan reaction to this whole segment and really the intergender match is very reminiscent of what happened last year. It was, very much. It was told that it was going to be John Cena versus The Miz plus Maurice and Nikki Bella. When that was announced, people were kind of frowning on it, not big fan. As it went on and they saw the segments, it got better and better and ended up being a pretty good match. Do you see this kind of the same, I guess, trajectory that we had last year?
I think it could. I don't know if Kurt Angle's going to propose to Ronda Rousey for us, but no, I think it definitely could. And like you mentioned, I think this was one of the better segments that Angle's had as GM, because they did let him get that little bit of attitude in there, that little bit of kind of you don't know what's going to happen, and having three of the biggest cornerstones of the Attitude Era in Stephanie, Triple H, and Kurt Angle. Like, there aren't too many more people outside of The Rock and Stone Cold who really had that kind of impact on Attitude Era in delivering those what's going to happen on Monday Night Raw, what's going to happen on SmackDown sort of moments. And the way Angle cut those, just shot those little comments in there, I was not, at first I was like, you're bringing Ronda and you got to give her one-on-one to really sell her power. But, maybe this is the way that you sell her as a legitimate entertainer as well as a badass. It's not going to be like a goofy, totally gimmicky match, because once Triple H hits the ring, he's going to be all business, especially if he gets to work Kurt Angle again. I think it could be really fun, and we'll see how it builds from here. But I think it's a great way to bring Ronda in. I think, and to really kind of put her in that upper echelon by having her work with Triple H and Stephanie and Kurt right away. I think it's great, and the way that sort of idol worship that she has for Kurt Angle, I think really sells it too, and really helps build them as a team, really instantly, oh yeah, I get it. I understand the chemistry. I understand why they work really well together, because there's that mutual respect and admiration going on. So I think it could be great. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, all of a sudden, after this last week, I'm a lot more excited. I'm a lot more invested. The segments on Sunday at Elimination Chamber as well as Monday Night Raw really helped me really get into this. So, I really am all of a sudden looking forward. It really reminds me of last year on how I first thought the intergender match would go. But, once it came, mixed gender, thank you, intergender. Is that like Goldust or
Intergender is
Velveteen
when
Dream?
Women and men actually can face off against each other. Mixed is when one is tagged in, the other one has to come in.
All right, there we go. we talked a little bit at the
Call
beginning of
yourself
the
a wrestling fan?
Yeah, Jesus
Just kidding.
Christ.
You know, his dad has lost to Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon in a tag match.
Oh my God. All right, we're not going to go there this week. We only got a couple minutes left in the show. We started off talking a little bit about the men's Elimination Chamber match and Roman Reigns winning. We knew it was going to happen. It finally happened. Braun Strowman, though, let's talk about his involvement in the match. 5 eliminations and then loses to Reigns, but 5 eliminations, that's never been done before. Of course, this is the first time we had 7 competitors instead of 6.
Braun had the performance of his career, in my opinion, in this Elimination Chamber match. He, as awesome a job, pun intended here, as awesome a job as everyone, The Miz, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, as well as they all did, John Cena, Braun Strowman was definitely the standout competitor of this match. And for him to dominate the way that he did and then lose to a spear, about a million Superman punches from all sorts of different angles, I think he even popped up Roman Reigns at one point, and then Roman Reigns is coming down, he hits him with the just worst punch I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the Superman punch. And to lose to a spear from Roman Reigns after everything that he did, it just, in my eyes, it won't deflate him. It won't derail him, but actually it might. I hope that it doesn't, but it's just, it's a case of Braun Strowman being in the main event, not even getting close to the main event, being in the main event time and time again and losing every time, especially to Roman Reigns. Granted, he did have a few victories when they had that awesome rivalry that actually, in my eyes, elevated both of them. But when it matters the most, when it counts, when there's a number one contendership on the line, or when it's the title itself on the line, he's in these matches and he continues to lose, and it's just, I don't know what to make of it.
5 incredible eliminations that should have been 6. I am still going to contend that they're continuing to drop the ball on Braun. Yes, he's booked monstrously, but he's just fodder for Roman Reigns, and I'm frustrated with it, and I want to see Braun with the Universal title soon.
Zach, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think I agree with a lot of that. I don't think Braun is a lost cause at this point by any means. I don't think any of us would argue that. But I think, given the fact that Roman and him had such a great rivalry, I don't see Brock coming back after Mania. I think it's pretty abundantly clear that Roman's going to get the belt, and I think it's the perfect opportunity to rekindle the Roman Reigns-Braun Strowman rivalry, except this time we've got the belt on the line. And at that point, I don't think we're going to have anyone else in the periphery of the title scene, and I think it could really, really elevate both those guys. And what better ultimate babyface push for Braun than to finally to be the guy who not only beats Roman Reigns, but to take the belt off him after he wins it from Brock at WrestleMania. I think it could be great, and I think we could still come out ahead on this one.
Awesome. So that about does it for our show. Tune in next week. We're going to talk about why Blake Ostreicher, Andre's biggest rival outside of me right here in the studio, is wrong about the 5 reasons the WWE needs to end the split brand situation they have right now. And also going to talk about maybe the best promo of Roman Reigns' career that just happened last Monday night. I was a huge fan of this. I'm not saying he's won me over, but holy cow, this was something special. Chandler, tell them about our social media pages.
Yes, you can like us, follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at the Schmozcast.
And Zach, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Where can they find you? I know we have ZachWagnerArt.com, but you're also on Instagram.
I am on Instagram at ZWagner422. I do a lot of silly drawings and stuff. Every now and then a wrestling thing pops up. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was a ton of fun.
All right, that does it for the show. Tune in next week to the Schmozcast Men in Tights right here on 103.5 The Sun, WLSP LP, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm from England, and you're listening to 103.5 The Sun Community Radio, WLSP LP, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin.